All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my good friend, Katie Klabusich. Katie is a writer, a reproductive justice activist, a media contributor, all of which and more you can find at katiespeak.com. You can also follow her on Twitter at Katie_speak. Katie, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Matt, thanks for having me back.
All right, so Katie, the last time you were here, we talked about some of your experiences as an abortion clinic escort. Recently, however, your activism for women's health has actually drawn the attention of the Pro-Life Action League, though oddly enough, it's not the first time that they've dealt with you here. But let's tell us all about what actually came down the last month or so.
Yeah, I've made history. This is not really. I mean, I don't have that kind of an ego. They've every year during Lent, so your members of faith who listen will know what Lent is, right? Between Ash Wednesday and Easter, there's this period of it's supposed to be about reflection and internal personal prayer. And every year, anti-choice groups turn it into what they call the 40 days. Really extreme locations where they have a lot of volunteers and picketers. They have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week presence at abortion clinics. They're more aggressive. There's more people. So that kind of happens every year. They ask people to pray for what they call abortionists and what you and I would call, doctors. And there's always kind of a stepped up presence. Most clinics have more escorts, sometimes more days a week. So we're used to there being more targeting and sort of anti-choice activity at this time of year. But what they've never, ever done is publish faces, names, and cities of multiple people, going so far, not just to post it on their blog. Ann Scheidler, who is the wife of the founder of the Pro-Life Action League, she wrote a blog post and she put my face, name, and city, and your friend and mine, Robin Marty, pro-choice journalist, her face and name, and Dr. Cheryl Chasteen, who is a Chicago-based doctor who flies to Kansas and helped reopen the clinic where Dr. Tiller used to practice. So they put the three of us up there together. They've always, obviously, I mean, you talk about this on the show with the history of violence at clinics and assassination of doctors. They've always targeted providers, but they've never targeted media. This is new. This is an escalation. They've never published faces quite like this. I mean, they've gone out on lists. They publish names and addresses. Like, that's not new. But I mean, we're their Facebook cover photo. Until a couple days ago, we were tagged to stay on top of the Girl Scout boycott. So somehow the three of us were more important than Girl Scout cookies, which has never happened to me before. But what's happened because the Pro-Life Action League has kind of a polite public face somehow, despite their history of real violence. Despite that, they have a nice public face. And so a lot of outlets use their reporting and writing. So groups that are on like right-wing watches, media, organizationalists like Renew America have picked it up, and they're publishing a lot of the comments on the Facebook pages. They're sort of Fox News style, where they're like, we didn't say this, just some people are saying, and they're using phrases like culture of death, hit list, target on their backs. Like these are going out in publications that are well read online. And so the implicit language that the Pro-Life Action League post was using has been picked up and made less implicit and more outright by the more extreme rhetoric groups.
Talk a little bit about some of their, because you said that they're kind of viewed as somewhat one of the more respectable organizations out there. Talk about a little bit some of their past that you hinted at here, where their tendencies actually do tend to be more violent than they would like to admit.
Sure. There's a really great piece in Religion Dispatches. There's no way we could cover it all because, I would just have to read the whole thing because a lot of Nazi just did this really great job. But they in the 80s, they're tight with Operation Rescue, which I'm sure your listeners know from, it's one of their fringier people who assassinated Dr. Tiller. So the founder, Joe Scheidler, who is in semi-retirement, I guess. His son Eric is running it. It was famous in the 80s and 90s. He famously called for, quote, a year of pain and fear. He took credit for and applauded 1985's 10 bombings and 16 cases of arson. The 10 years that the National Organization of Women were in a criminal case and lawsuit with him, finally resulted in the FACE Act, which is the reason, the federal protection, that's the reason why you can't chain yourself to clinic doors. We've talked a lot in the past about what they're doing that's not quite that, but they used to literally be able to just come with chains and just attach themselves to doors and lay down in front of cars so that they couldn't get into the parking lots. So this group, I mean, they're still friends with Operation Rescue's Troy Newman, who is the one who outed Dr. Chastain, publishing her address and her name, despite her request that not happen, which is a big reason why they can say that this prayer thing is about caring about us. But when somebody who has publicly and privately and individually asked you not to publish their information, you can't put their face up there and expect people to not understand what you're doing. I mean, arguably, Robin and I are both public figures, but Dr. Chastain is asked not to be. And, the Pro-Life Action League knows exactly what they're doing. They know who was going to pick it up. They know that their founder, Joe, who was really into the clinic violence and the by all means necessary rhetoric, he still has followers. It's a large group. So even if their website says that they're about peace and even their picketing isn't supposed to be aggressive, although it is, they have that public face. And what people don't know is what they do behind the scenes and the kind of rhetoric that they're encouraging from other groups by doing things like this.
Yeah, it's so insane. And, again, I'm friends with you. I'm friends with Robin. I take it personally that, you guys are seeing your face on this sort of thing. It frightens me. I mean, but, just the fact that there's so much history of violence against clinics where the doctor that they targeted along with you two is literally going, flying into Kansas to go and provide services for women literally in the state where Tiller was killed. There's something so implicitly wrong and evil and undeniably just again, like for a group that claims to be, Christian and doing God's work, it's so sick. And just like, and the fact that they could do this and like kind of think, we're just praying for them. It's like, and I read the piece, the Religion Dispatch piece, where he's like, we're just showing their pictures because don't they look like nice people? Shouldn't we think that they're just normal people like us and maybe we can get to them? But it's like, no, you lying SOB. That's not why you put their pictures up there. You're doing it to intimidate them and try to scare them, and some crazy ass 1 step, 2 steps away from your website is going to take that information and potentially do something very, very dangerous, not only to the doctor or to you two, and that personally makes me quite angry.
Yeah, with a trigger warning, if people think that I'm being alarmist or that your concern for me and Robin and Dr. Chastain isn't grounded in fact, despite the history, you can go read their Facebook comments. I mean, it's right there. It's public. They're not moderating it. They're not taking things down. Part of why I was waiting for the Religion Dispatch's piece is I wanted Eric Scheidler to be able to comment on it. I wanted him to talk about the motivation, and he, in my opinion, stepped right in it. He was talking about Dr. Chastain, and he was like, she was rather naive to think she could be this anonymous abortionist coming into Wichita at George Tiller's former practice of all places, which means he knows she wanted to be anonymous. She wanted to just be a doctor in private practice doing her job. But instead, if you read Robin's piece from Ms. Magazine last year, which is terrifying, they talk about the measures they have to go through just to get her from the airport to the hospital. I mean, it's bulletproof vests. And as long as that's happening, as long as doctors in this country are slandered out of being able to get jobs because the Pro-Life Action League sends long letters to legal departments of hospitals and stuff saying, if you hire these people, we will be out in front of your building. Here are the signs we'll be carrying. Won't that be great for your business? And I mean, they have made it impossible for doctors to make a regular living, even outside of providing abortion services. And as long as they're wearing bulletproof vests to work, if they think I'm going to sit down and shut up, they can think again. Like, that's just not. And you made a really great point. These are These are fundamentalist-y, fringy, extreme religious groups. And they claim that it's based on the Bible, but they haven't apparently read anything that Jesus said. Reverend Harry Knox, the CEO of the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice, which is an amazing organization, all of their groups, especially the group in Indiana, who the second this happened, and they saw that religion was essentially being weaponized to attack us, went all over Twitter and social media and were pushing back publicly from a position of faith. Reverend Knox says that he said it's creating what looks like a wanted poster, then asking people to pray for those shown is just hate in love's clothing. And he's right. That's what's happening. I mean, I will take genuine prayer from people who care about me, atheist or believer. That sort of outreach and genuineness affects me. I get emails and messages and tweets every day from people saying, oh, that reminds me, I meant to pray for you in your activism. And I say, thank you, because they mean it and they don't mean me harm. But anybody who can look at that blog post and the stuff that's been written and not see what's going on needs to wake up.